let's talk about the book that everyone is talking about, and it's Fourth Wing. I have a question. Is Fourth Wing just ACOTAR, but with dragons? Obviously, the short answer is no. They are two very different books. But the long answer is yes, and here's why. Disclaimer time. This is your spoiler warning. There will be spoilers for Fourth Wing. There will also be spoilers for the entire A Court of Thorns and Roses series, or ACOTAR for short. There has to be spoilers because I'm going to be discussing the similarities between these two books, or one book and a book series. I am also going to mention Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard because there's also similarities with that book as well. Not as many as ACOTAR, but there will be some pretty big spoilers for that book too. If you haven't read these series and you want to read them and you don't want to be spoiled, then please come back later after you've read the books. If you haven't read them and you don't care about spoilers, then stick around, see what you think. These are just my opinions. It's just a bit of fun. If you are a really, really serious Fourth Wing fan or a serious ACOTAR fan and you just maybe can't deal with any comparisons, this video might not be for you. Okay, when I first joined the online book community, I was always seeing a lot of people talk about the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I was always seeing people trying to find books similar to A Court of Thorns and Roses. I couldn't escape people chatting about the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. Lots of people would make book suggestions like, if you love ACOTAR, this is the book for you, or this is perfect for ACOTAR fans. Then I'd read the suggested books and kind of be a bit disappointed because they didn't always really match up. People were looking for a book that gave them that same excitement and feelings that they had when they first read A Court of Thorns and Roses. I stopped looking for that fabled ACOTAR-like replacement book. And then a couple of months ago, I read Fourth Wing. And literally the whole time I was reading this book, I was like, this is the book for ACOTAR fans. This is the one. This is the Fabled Book. I'm taking this very seriously. I made notes. On the surface level, they're both fantasy books with a romance plotline. Fourth Wing might be a little bit more predictable, but it has been a really long time since I've read the ACOTAR series, so it might be predictable. I just can't remember if it was predictable. Let's start with Xaden from Fourth Wing and Rhysand from the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. The obvious similarity here is how they are described as looking. They are both the typical tall, dark and handsome, you know, dark and brooding type. Then we go into other similarities. There's the whole I had to be mean to you or keep secrets from you or push you away because of insert stupid reason here. Okay, maybe it wasn't always a stupid reason. In ACOTAR, Rhys hides the whole mating bond thing from Feyre. He hides it to protect her, or that's what he says anyway. He's also horrible to her, abuses her in the first book. He then doesn't tell her and keeps secrets from her in the second book because he thinks she hates him. I mean, she does hate him, so that's fair. But that was a big secret to keep, so Rhysand is a secret keeper. Then with Xaden, he hides the whole truth of the rebellion from Violet. He does the whole push her away thing. Even when they get close, he still tries to push her away, and he still doesn't trust her. And he keeps one really, big, massive secret from her that is really specific to her. So that's huge. So he is also a big secret keeper. So yeah, they're both big secret keepers, and that means you get like a big reveal moment in both of the books. And then other similarities. Both Xaden and Rhysand have lost family in tragic events. They have both taken leadership roles and have both surrounded themselves with found family. Rhys has his inner circle. Xaden has his children of the rebellion. Next similarity is mind communication. Okay, do you know what? This is where things get a little bit more complicated. Not the similarities part, just the complex part comes when trying to explain some of the mind reading in both of these books. In ACOTAR, in book 2, Rhys and Feyre can communicate through this mind connection. They both can do this because they both have like a special ability, but it's also suggested that they can do it because they're mates, and so they have a kind of closer link than others might have. In Fourth Wing, Xaden and Violet can also communicate through a mind link, but theirs is a lot more complicated. Okay, so in Fourth Wing, when you bond to a dragon, that dragon can communicate with the bonded rider through like a mind link. And now this is where it gets interesting. Xaden's dragon, Sir Guile, is mated to Tarn, and Tarn is Violet's dragon. So the dragons can communicate to their riders through a mind link. The two mated dragons can also communicate to those riders because they are mated. And then somehow that means that Xaden and Violet can also communicate through this mind link because their dragons are linked. It's a bit convoluted, but I think I actually prefer the complicated dragon stuff to the whole Fae being mates and their magic power kind of thing. I don't know why I prefer the complicated one more. Both Violet and Feyre face trials. Feyre faces the trials under the mountain. Violet faces the trials when she starts at the War College. She goes through a series of trials in order to eventually have the opportunity to bond with a dragon. During these trials, both characters are kind of like seen as weak. Feyre, when she does her trials, she's seen as weak because she's human and like everyone else is around her is Fae. Violet is kind of seen as weak because she has a disability, and so she just sometimes struggles to do the things that everyone else can do, but she never lets it stop her. Feyre is constantly, you know, being coddled by Tamlin, but again, she does what she wants to do and she doesn't let anyone stop her from doing what she wants to do. Violet, very similar. There is Dane, who is kind of coddling her and trying to stop her from getting hurt. But again, she does what she wants to do. Also, talking about trials, in the ACOTAR series, there is the Blood Rite, which is like the culmination of the Illyrian warriors' training. They have to go up a mountain and face lots of like obstacles and trials in order to become a fully fledged warrior. Sounds pretty similar to how Fourth Wing have their trials. Also, a lot of them take place on a mountain, and you have to complete the trials in order to become a fully fledged cadet and hopefully bond with a dragon. Next we have tattoos. In the ACOTAR series, the Illyrian warriors have tattoos. There's also the tattoos in the Night Court. There is a tattoo that marks a bargain. Tattoos are just generally constantly mentioned in the ACOTAR series. In Fourth Wing, the dragons like mark their riders with their own unique kind of marking, which they create with their fire, I think. Not exactly a tattoo, but like a tattoo. And then I think the children of the rebels, they have some kind of tattoo or marking to sort of mark them apart from the others, to sort of say, hey, these guys, their parents tried to rebel. I think I'm remembering that correctly. This is a good one. Dane has Tamlin Energy. Dane from Fourth Wing, he just has Tamlin Energy. I can't really explain it, it just is. It just is. Dane and Tamlin, so similar. Just like Tamlin, he wants to protect Violet for his own selfish reasons, for his own peace of mind, and doesn't really listen to what she wants. Sounds familiar? Because Tamlin does the same to Feyre. He just wants Feyre to do what he wants all the time. So yeah, same guy. Both Dane and Tamlin think that they know best. They don't listen, and they are both generally very annoying. Tamlin ends up betraying Feyre by working with Hybern. Dane betrays Violet by covertly reading her thoughts. And then he goes to his father and, you know, just tries to get Xaden and Violet killed. So much for protecting her. But what I think is better about Fourth Wing is that Violet never falls for Dane. They do not have a romantic relationship. They start as friends, they stay as friends, and then they're not friends anymore. And so we never have to experience Violet dealing with a terrible relationship. Next up is powers. Xaden basically has the same powers as Azriel. Azriel is a shadow singer, someone who can wield and control shadows and hear whisperings and secrets. Xaden can also wield shadows, and he uses them to find out secrets. It's exactly the same. And then there's Violet and Xaden's powers as a couple. And this is where I think it's a bit more similar to SJM's other series, Crescent City. There will be no spoilers. Let's just say, kind of reminds me of Night and Day, Agent Night, Agent Day. Not going to explain because of spoilers, but if you know, you know. I feel like both these authors like the idea of couples with like opposing powers. So it's like shadows, lightning. They're opposites. Next up is the Librarians. In the most recent ACOTAR book, so A Court of Silver Flames, we spend more time with a character called Clotho who works in the library. She cannot speak and she has her own way of communicating. In Fourth Wing, we meet one of Violet's friends from the Scribe Quadrant. We meet her in a library. She also cannot speak, and Violet communicates with her with sign language. I loved how this was done, and I loved that the author decided to include sign language. Even though it's a fantasy novel, she didn't just have her come up with their own magical communication. She actually used sign language in the book, and I loved that. Next up is important books. In book 2 of the ACOTAR series, the characters go after a very important book. They think it will help them stop the war. There's a lot of mystery around the book. Only Feyre can find the book, and they have to decode it after they find it. In Fourth Wing, Violet already has a book of old fairy tales and folklore. her father gave to her. She thinks it's just stories, so it's an important book, but she doesn't realise its importance. But because her father gave it to her, she insists on taking this book with her to the Riders' Quadrant. But obviously this book turns out to be really important, and her dad even hides a message in it. So there you go, 2 very important books. Both books feature a rebellion and war. In ACOTAR in book 2, Rhysand tries to convince Feyre that there's a war coming, and so the story and the world kind of really expand at that moment and become so much bigger. And it's kind of the same with Fourth Wing. Towards the end of the book, as Violet learns the truth, the world becomes so much bigger, and she learns that there is actually a war, but it's not the war that she thought it was. And then lastly, this one is a good one. Remember in ACOTAR where the Surreal spills the tea? The Surreal tells Feyre to stay with the High Lord. And of course, at the time of reading it, we assume the Surreal means Tamlin. That's what Feyre assumes as well. Of course, later on, we learn that it was actually Rhysand he meant. Well, in Fourth Wing, Tarn, Violet's dragon, he spills the tea as well. He tells Violet to stay close to the wing leader. But which wing leader did you mean, Tarn? To sum up, that is all my ACOTAR similarities. I might have missed some. If I have, leave it in the comments. Or if you have your own theories on similarities, leave that in the comments too. Now I just want to have a quick chat about Red Queen, because even though these books are really different, there were like two things that are just strikingly similar. Obviously, powers. Mare from Red Queen has lightning powers, and Violet from Fourth Wing has lightning powers. Then the other thing that was just so similar, like uncanny, same. It just was exactly the same in my mind. And that was the ending of Fourth Wing and the ending of Red Queen. Like the very, very ending. Same ending. Like literally, it's almost like the last couple of pages, Mare finds out about her brother. And then in the last couple of pages of Fourth Wing, Violet finds out about her brother. It's the same. Again, I don't really have anything to add or discuss here because it is just the same. Although I will say, knowing what happens in the Red Queen series, I feel like we are going to have to keep a very, very close eye on Violet's brother in book 2. If you've read the Red Queen series, you will know why we will need to keep a close eye on Violet's brother. Anyway, so that was my list of comparisons between Fourth Wing and the ACOTAR series. If you haven't read any of these books, then this video probably didn't make a whole bunch of sense. Sorry about that. Thanks for watching, and like and follow for more.